It's time to look at stories that made it to the front pages of the newspaper. Kicking off with Daily Trust. Starting off with Daily Trust newspaper, the first story we have boldly there in front. Customers express frustration as bank IT glitches linger. Development widen. Trust deficit. Development widens trust deficit. Upgrades have messed up small businesses, says NASME. You'd find that story on page 4. And then the picture there says residents of Mawogi Riverine Community in Agbaji, area council of FCT, crossing River Gurara in Kano on their way to Agbaji Market. People and the canoe actually looks overloaded. Okay. Now on the top left, Osun APC suspends Arebeshola over anti-party activities. Sultan is alive, Sultanate Council says. Gunmen sacks 23 communities in Niger State. You find the stories on page 13, 34, and 32 respectively. Ogun Short School suspends principal over student's death. You find that on page 21. Again, petroleum rises. You find that on page 23. 750 million raised as Tinubu unveils Armed Forces Remembrance Emblem. On page 6. And power outage, bandits have been targeting Shiro's 330 kVA lines for long, says locals. This brings back what we spoke about, corporate social responsibility. Now that it's been vandalized is when they're saying that bandits have been targeting it. Why was this information not given to security agencies a lot sooner? All right, now moving on to the next paper we have this morning on the Guardian newspaper. For the Guardian, it says, states poor IGR raises fiscal sustainability concerns. That you find that on page 6. There's a pictorial there, and you could get the paper and look, into that. But yes, we had a guest one time that spoke on internal generated revenues and how states are capable, state governors are capable of improving it if they have the political will. You could still check our YouTube pages if you want to have details of that conversation we had. Now, reps to query permanent secretary over 1.4 billion abandoned road project. Documentation stalls ministerial nominee screening. Naira for crude. Tinubu seeks stakeholders' understanding as fuel prices rise. Federal government seeks regional cooperation against small arms and IEDs threats. We still have their petrol consumption hovers at 50 million liters per day amid deregulation and smuggling. Still on Guardian, telcos losing billions of naira to vandalism as NCC audit shows subscription shortfall. Stakeholders urge caution review of tax bill consensus. And at the bottom there we have Nigeria-US set up early warning situation room for conflicts resolution. Those are the stories we have on the front page of Guardian newspaper. Now going over to The Nation. For The Nation this morning, Dangote Refinery asks NNPCL marketers not to import petrol. Our plant can meet local supply. The merits of crude sale in Naira by President. All right. Cardoso, CBN will deploy necessary tools to battle inflation. And we still have there on The Nation, tax panel chairs explain VAT sharing in basis of derivation and consumption. On the top left, federal government combating road deficit, says Umahi, and Tinubu Biden in 30 minutes phone call on UN seat Binance chief. Oyebanji presents 375.7 billion naira 2025 budget bill to the National Assembly, and why we suspended ex-governor Arebeshola by Osun APC. At the bottom, Tinubu's appointment inclusive, not loop-sided, says Omokri. You would find these stories on the front pages of The Nation newspaper. All right, now moving on to Punch. For Punch this morning, the story we have there, again NNPCL hikes petrol price, fixes 1,060 naira per litre. Refinery faults fuel importers. Tinubu summons Edu, Dangote and Kiari. Federal government seeks regional cooperation. Still on the Punch. 17 northern states blackouts to end November 12th. So the federal government stop ad hoc dollar auctions, Wema Bank tells CBN. And 32 states got 55% of revenue from FAC. That's a report from Walidu. And still there on the bottom of the Punch, we have 2025 budget. Tinubu submits MTEF to National Assembly next week. Lagos, Calabar Highway, Lagos Community Homeowners fault route diversion. Now moving over to Vanguard. On the Vanguard, at the top there we have NPA halt container release at Apapa Port due to severe congestion. Federal government yet to reach out to us, says striking university unions as Unilori, UNN and others join the strike. Still there, government media must unite to move Nigeria forward, says the Vice President Shetima. Still on Vanguard, boldly petrol price up third time in 60 days as crude price drops. And bandits take over military camp in Niger. Biden support Nigeria's quest for UN Security Council seats. Rep probes Ikewiche over assault on Bolt driver. And then in sports, Nigeria-Ghana rekindle rivalry. Well, these are the stories we have on the front pages of the Vanguard newspaper. Now to this day. For this day, we have TCN targets Sunday to restore power to the north, says insecurity hindering effort. Well, this is a different angle. And in a 30-minute phone call, Tinubu Biden seek to deepen partnership in U.S.-Nigeria relations. U.S. President backs Nigeria's quest for UN Security Council seats. Thanks Tinubu for releasing Binance Gambrian, who is in custody. Remanded Onaikon to fix Nigeria's challenges. Northern elite must fix region's problem. That's a different angle to it. With Naira for crude, Tinubu promises more stability. Dangote Refinery has over 500 million of fuel in reserve, 500 million liters of fuel in reserve. Again, National Oil Company raises pump price of petrol. Now, these are the stories we have on the front page of this day newspaper. All right, so joining us via Zoom to review some of the headlines on today's pages, we have Ben Shemang, former Director of News, Voice of Nigeria. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, sir.
Thank you very much, Vivian, once more.
All right. Looking at the issue of blackout in the north, which is the conversation that's on the lips of everyone in Nigeria today, they've said it's going to take till November 12th to fix it. People are still currently experiencing extreme hardship in the north. What's your thoughts on this and all that is playing out when it comes to electricity distribution and transmission in Nigeria?
Yeah, you see, honestly, there are issues that are man-made. There are issues that are coming from the environment. For example, we have all sorts of gully erosions. Sometimes they tamper with the installations. You just see that they are falling off. And it will take quite a lot of effort, such a kind of, to find out where this problem is. Those days we used to hear that even bandits were at the point shooting the high tension cables and they cut them off. And once that is done, of course, the national grid is affected. So it's a very big problem. Outside that, there's also the managerial, the human aspect. Probably there are some incompetent fellows who are supposed to be doing their job and they are failing to do it. And sometimes it could also be a sabotage within. Let's ensure that this boss is not seen to be doing what he ought to be doing. We had that allegation, the Keyamo and the immediate past Minister of Aviation. There are human problems. There are some that are environmental, so to speak.
So we do hope that it's going to be fixed. And like you said, there are also human problems in also affecting this, because people went and vandalized these things, plunging this region into darkness. But moving on to the story that made it boldly to the front page of Daily Trust newspaper, where customers express frustration as banks' IT glitch lingers. People take their money to banks to safeguard and want to expect to access it where necessary. But for a couple of weeks, several banks have been experiencing IT glitch, thereby affecting people wanting to do transactions and can't have access to their money. What's your thought on banks experiencing IT glitch at this point in time, where Nigerians, first of all, cash we had a problem of having issues with accessing cash at some point in Nigeria, and people now relied heavily on banks. And people have relied on banks and trust them. What's your thought on what is happening when it comes to accessing accounts and money due to IT glitch, for banks at this point in time?
Yeah, every change must always inflict pains on those who the is meant for. And that is what this glitch is all about. But it is lasting. These banks ought to have envisaged some of these things when they thought of the need to upgrade. What was it what was their assessment? How long will it take? What are the problems that are likely to be faced? How long will they last? How are they going to be solved immediately? Now, if it's going to be long lasting, what are the immediate palliatives the banks have set on ground to ensure that issues of this nature are not experienced? But the situation where Nigerians are just left, nobody is talking to them, and the banks are there because there are bankers. Bankers, people who go there there are customers to do lodgements. If they don't go to lodge the money, then there is no banker and there is no bank consequently. Therefore, they ought to have taken care of some of these things. In trying to make it better, can we look at what the side effects are? How long will they last? And you bring in the experts. You ought to have also studied other banking sectors in the world. How have countries ABC been able to do it? Were they able to do it without all? Or is it just a Nigerian thing? Or should Nigeria be a big school where others will learn from their mistakes? Just like Ghana found oil and they said Nigeria is going to be the biggest school where oil crisis has always been there. Ghana is Nigeria to avoid all of that. So in the banking sector, if you envisage that there will be some glitches, you ought to have also found out what to do in order to solve this. Customers are suffering. Banks are not making business to strive, just like the electricity thing is also making Nigeria to be at a standstill. So Nigeria is in a very big problem, and we do have this coming from what they call the organized private sector. When you unbundled the electricity sector, we expected that expert would be in charge, but the performance as we have today is abysmal. When you said you categorize ABC and everybody is now suffering, yet you are paying according to your classes, it's not the best.
All right.
In talking of the banking sector, where again we ought to have the best of the best in terms of the organized, look at the adjective, organized private sector. In other words, every other place is disorganized. Today, the lackluster approach in which they approach many of these things is just not it, because hospitals will suffer. You want to operate on patients, no light, because also the bank is refusing to release some money for some items to be bought. So it's a whole change of one thing dragging the other into Nigerians suffering. And that is why today, look, Tinubu has to do something seriously.
All right, thank you for that now. But before we go now, we learned that the northern elders, northern governors, traditional rulers, and even the CDS had meetings where they came up with a series of, pointers, talking about insecurity, talking about the blackout and the, level of economic activities and out of school children in the north. Now, Onaiko on his part came out to say, to fix Nigeria's challenges, northern elite must fix regions' problems. Now, we've had a guest sometime here in the studio that spoke about how each state's governor has the ability to boost their IGR. There's also a story here in one of the papers where they spoke about states boosting their IGR. Now, do you think the northern governors have the political will and what it takes to fix the problem in the region instead of coming out, to talk about the problems and, not going back home to fix the problem? What's your thought on the outcome of that meeting? And do you think they have the ability to fix the problems they listed instead of coming out to list it?
They have the capacity to do it, but they lack the willpower to do it. The North can always do it. When it comes to politics, they are always united. But when it comes to implementation or implementing some of the things laid down politically, you don't see that they are getting it right. Why is it that if you're talking of the largest out of school syndrome, they are from the north? Is it the people with largest number of leprosy? They are from the north. Is it the blind people? They are from the north. Is it the poverty? They are from the north. Yet we keep on hitting our chest. We say, oh, we are so proud. We have the largest population in the north. Okay, come to the northwest of Nigeria. This is where the votes are. But when people are being voted in, what do you give these people in return? Now, if you have to do a peer review mechanism, I was looking at literacy index where they said Imo State is the highest. So can Zamfara State, for example, peer review itself with the Imo State? Imo, what are you doing to ensure that your children are not out of school? You know, what is Rivers doing that Meduguri or Borno State is not doing, that they can now do a peer review, a mechanism, a kind of. When you had Amotekun in southwestern Nigeria, where all the southwestern states decided, okay, let's make a common law, a common uniform, common fight against terrorism or banditry. Now you see them with the same uniform. You come to the north, everybody is doing his own thing, his own way. It will not work that way, and that's why Onaekon is saying, look inward, stand in front of the mirror. What is the mirror telling you? The north has to look at itself on the mirror and simply agree to one thing. They are failing the north, and these are people who got scholarship to go to all sorts of places. Today they are hitting it on innocent Nigerians, denying them of every right, inalienable rights given to them by God and the Nigerian Constitution.
All right. Thank you so much for this very insightful conversation this morning. It's always good to have you on our newspaper review. Thank you so much for joining us, Benjamin. It's good to have you. All right, that was looking at the stories that made it to the pages of the newspaper. We had Ben Shimang, former director of News Voice of Nigeria, there speaking with us. Well, with that, we've come to the end of our show this morning. I hope you were able to pick up something. I hope we're able to keep you informed, educated, and at the same time entertained. And I hope your voice, made it to our studio this morning. Well, we've come to the end of the show. At the top of the hour, we're going to have sports, we'll have business, and we'll also have, our news through the course of the day. So do well to stick around. We have a lot packed for you still on the station. Well, my name is Lilian Ogazi. Thank you for joining us and have a great day ahead. Don't forget to be a good Nigerian in everything you do.